Hello, and welcome to this workshop. It's not going to be any code in it. It's mostly about IBC use cases, and in particular, what CosmWasm combined with IBC actually unlocks in terms of use cases and what you can do with it. My name is Gjermund Garaba. I've been in the Cosmos ecosystem for close to 3 years now. Previously CTO at Empower and joining the IBC team at ICF next week. And yeah, you can find me on Gjermund Garaba on Twitter. So what I hope for you guys to go to walk away with today after this talk is just a couple of things. So first, how you can sort of think about IBC as a way to come up with new ideas for your dApps. Sort of shifting the perspective a little bit away from how I think many think about IBC, which is more in terms of a token bridge. Of course, this particular set of people probably has some a bit broader perspective on it, but I still know that many fail to think about what IBC actually unlocks. And we'll go through some cool examples, both in the sort of abstract, not the abstract SDK, sorry, but also concrete examples of what exists today, and hopefully some ideas on what you could potentially do in your own contracts, maybe here today. So yeah, what happens when? So we've had IBC for a while. We've had token transfers. We've had interchain accounts, sort of, and this messaging format that we've had live for a while. But it's like most of the things that are done today on IBC are token transfers. It's like 95% of all the IBC use cases today are just transferring tokens, which works well and it's great. It's a product market fit for sure, but it can do so much more, and that's where CosmWasm really makes IBC shine. And I think also IBC makes CosmWasm shine, because CosmWasm alone, it's cool. You can make cool apps and you can do a bunch of nice stuff. But they're fairly isolated in terms of the interchain as a whole. You can interact with the stuff that's on whatever chain you choose, but there's many other chains that have a lot of cool stuff. And the same goes for IBC alone. It's mainly like I said, it's tokens transfers. And there are other protocols or applications on top of IBC, but it's really, really hard to build that, because you need to build these custom SDK modules, and you need to get all the chains to implement them, and its upgrades takes half a year. It's just, it doesn't work for innovation, essentially, where you need to move fast and you need to be able to iterate. So this is where CosmWasm and IBC is great, and I tried to think about it sort of in the same terms that we thought about like DeFi Lego blocks back in like when Ethereum started to blow up, and like we had the DeFi summer and whatever, and everyone's talking about these Lego blocks of DeFi. CosmWasm and IBC really unlocks this concept of interchain Lego blocks, and I want people to think about it more like that. We have this really explosive expansion of chains and apps, connecting now Solana and Ethereum to this, and like the capabilities, if all of this could interact, are quite expansive. So what I want to do is to show a few examples of like how to think about this, so maybe you can come up with some ideas. And And this also plays extremely well into the current big thing that's everyone is talking about, the modular thesis. If all of these roll-ups are gonna come online with all their ideas and all their new things, if you can do the same and connect to all of these as well, it's really, you can do a lot more essentially, and not just being able to have your token and transfer it over. So yeah, I talked about shifting their perspective a little bit, and you know, stop thinking of it just as a token bridge kind of thing. And I like to think about it more in terms of like Web 2 kind of thing, but where everything has an open API that's well specified, for the most part anyway. But where you can actually access all these different things from your own app. So it's like you build a Web 2 application, and you can directly access like any application out there. There's no walled gardens in the same way that it's in Web 2, which is what makes Web 3 so fucking powerful. Is that it's so accessible compared to Web 2, where everyone is trying to guard off their shit. So obviously you can access native things on chains, like there's staking modules and the tokens that are on like other chains, but also the actual applications, like the dexes. You can access, you know, Osmosis and do stuff with Osmosis directly from your own application across chain. You can access, you know, like privacy stuff on other chains if you need that. So there's really no limit to what you can do there, except for that it's a little hard to build sometimes. But that's where things like Abstract SDK is helping with that, to abstract away some of these things that are currently hard. But there's just a lot of stuff coming there as well to help with that. But you can definitely do it. And this is the way that when I'm trying to come up with ideas of what I can do like in the interchain, I try to think about what do I actually do myself. So I go around and I use my wallet and stuff, and I move between all these different chains and use these apps. What if my app could do exactly the same things that I do, but, you know, automated and across chain using sort of an API? And who has built cool stuff already? There's so much out there. There's a bunch of cool stuff. Just connect to it. Yeah, and then so it's like back to this Lego thinking, connecting all these different things that are already built. So yeah, that's my framework of thinking for IBC and interchain and interchain Lego blocks. So now I'm gonna go through some different use cases and examples, and I've sort of split them up into a few categories that I made up. So the first one is importing functionality into your own application or to your own chain. The other is exporting your functionality, and then importing assets, which, you know, token bridges is one version of that, exporting assets, and lastly, actually building your own protocols. So first one, importing functionality, there is a DApp for that. So this is like how I like to draw this up. It's like logically you can have your app with your own stuff and your own logic on your home chain, whatever it may be, Neutron or, you know, whatever. And all these other chains that have this functionality that you might want, you can logically try to get that into your own app like this. And okay, yeah, sorry, I thought someone was like snoring really loudly, but it's I guess a dishwasher or something. Yeah, so just like someone has already built and focused on and is really good at, for instance, dexes. Like I would not want to compete with Osmosis at this point, for instance. I would not want to compete with a lending protocol that's been been working for 2 years on their stuff. Like, I want to build on top of it. Yeah, and also things that are just not necessarily possible to get on your home chain. Like, for instance, privacy. You have secret network that you can connect to get some sort of private computation. There are new ones coming up that can provide you with that kind of functionality that's just simply not possible to build where you are. Randomness is a hard one if you don't have oracles and stuff on your own chain. But there are other chains that do have that stuff. So that makes it also easier to build on whatever chain you want, because you don't have to think too much about the functionality as long as the chain itself is secure and has the basic building blocks you need. You can sort of get away with connecting to other ones to get the other things you need. An example, this is kind of what we're building actually in the hackathon, which is an interchain autocompounder. So basically, we're connecting to any chain, creating an interchain account, and the user just has to give the interchain account offset permissions to do delegation for them, and then Neutron, using a scheduler, can just auto-compound for the users. The user can have like one place where they auto-compound everything, like their staking positions. And this is kind of this is what I like about like CosmWasm and IBC. It's like you can connect these things that are just hard to do otherwise. This would have been tricky to do if without CosmWasm, to say the least. And I think DAO probably is maybe the prime example of importing functionality. Like, you can basically do anything to any chain from whatever chain DAO is deployed on, right? It's like you have a DAO that can buy NFTs from Stargaze. It can vote on another chain. It can do whatever. It can call smart contracts arbitrarily. It's really, really cool to see, and they've really taken that to the extreme, and that's what makes this so cool. This one was something I hadn't thought about too much prior to like working on this presentation, but because I often end up thinking about it from like my own perspective. What can I get? What can I find? And I saw a couple of cool examples of people who are exporting their functionality, and of course it's been done before as well. But it's if you heard of this like outpost concept, where you sort of deploy some part of your application or in some way on other chains so they can access it more easily. Well, previously the way that has often been done is to deploy like almost a copy of your own application on another chain, which is really ineffective and hard to keep updated, and it's a mess. But what you can actually do is have a very, very light contract on another chain that just calls home to your own chain, and then others can just access that. And one example I saw recently was Jackal is doing this, because Jackal is a storage privacy storage chain, so they've focused a lot on that, and they've built this outpost thing that just calls home, like on any chain that has CosmWasm, you can using this outpost concept, you can access hot storage. Which is not available on your own chain probably. So that's a way for both. I mean, of course it makes a lot of sense for custom chains like this that have like built a huge thing around it. The DEXs, lending protocols, all kind of stuff. This makes sense to make it just easier to use that functionality. Of course, anyone could also just call this directly, but if there is a smart contract that you can just call, it's much easier. So it's a way to give users an easy way to access your app, which is on another chain. Yeah, and you could do the same if you have a smart contract on, Osmosis or something, and you want users on Neutron to easily access it. You can create a nice little outpost for it that they can just directly access. So that's exporting functionality. Importing assets, that's the typical use case. Not going to spend too much time with that, but it's like Osmosis. They did this to the extreme, where it's like you just can get any assets, any fungible token into the chain and put it into pools and do all the stuff with it. But it also goes for other assets, right? So like NFTs, which is fairly new in terms of standardization, but we have examples of that. Is that the one I'm showing this one here, okay. Where you can get NFTs from now Ethereum to Stargaze, for instance. So it's a way for people who have built, let's say, a marketplace to import the assets that are popular on other chains to their own, and in that way, sort of, they don't have to redo everything from scratch, which has been often the way it's been done. And in some cases, you have assets that are not easily standardized, that you can't transfer through like a fungible token or an NFT, and in that case, you can wrap it in, for instance, an NFT using interchain accounts. So this example, I've done this in a hackathon before, but it's basically like your NFT contract just creates an interchain account on the other chain. That interchain account can then own that asset, and the NFT the only way to actually access that asset is through the NFT. Meaning that logically, so that's the left side, the NFT itself is actually wrapping the asset that is on the counterparty chain. So that's another way of wrapping basically anything. So you can wrap a contract this way. You can have the admin functionality owned by an NFT on another chain. So you can have like ownership set like this. You could have, if you're really bold, you could have your validator set up like this. So you can trade your validator commissions if you want that. So it's basically anything that can be owned and transferred, you could wrap like this. And NFTs are standardized. You could transfer those around. You could sell it on a marketplace, or fractionalize it. It's the possibilities are quite immense. Yeah, and like I said, Stargaze was the other example. So they did this recently with Osmosis's Mad Scientist NFT, where the Mad Scientists were minted on Osmosis, and then since Osmosis is not an NFT marketplace, you could transfer your Mad Scientist to Stargaze to get all the great functionality that Stargaze has built, their smooth app and all this, and you can trade it nicely there. And now where the Ethereum NFT transfers are online as well, we can soon transfer bad kids to Ethereum, trade them on OpenSea. It's nice. We can get whoever has those monkeys or whatever, or pudgy penguins, I don't know. You can get them on Stargaze. I don't know. It's yeah. So it sort of grows the pie, which I think is, side note, I think it's good for Cosmos to start growing the pie and stop infighting. Just saying. Anyway, importing assets. Another example of that is, this is just a meme example that I did for another hackathon, but it's sort of the opposite example, where you have an NFT that's minted on Stargaze, and what if you want that NFT to have its own chain for whatever reason, or you want it on another chain? So you can just bridge that over to your own chain, and then you have Stargaze for all the minting and the trading and all that stuff, and then you can just port it over and use it for governance on your own chain, for instance. So it's yeah, that's sort of also exporting assets, I guess, which is sort of just the opposite side of this. But it's the same thing where you have your own. This is also like one of the base use cases. Like most chains have their own token, but they don't have a DEX, right? So they export it to Osmosis or whatever to trade it there. And same with NFTs or whatever, you can export it and get access to those who do that shit good. Yeah, that's the mad scientist example. And finally, the last one is protocols. This is basically, so the way it works now, most sort of protocols that are built on top of IBC, they're called IBC apps. They're built natively using Cosmos SDK modules for the most part. Like the NFT transfer stuff, that's built as a custom SDK module, and the issues that come with that is that it takes a long time to upgrade them because all the chains are, you need a full upgrade, and usually it's versioning issues with the Cosmos SDK, and it's a pain. If you've ever done this yourself, it's not fun to try to increase your version numbers on anything. So this is gonna be better in future versions of the SDK where they're sort of decoupling this, but for now it's just really painful. And in any case, it will require upgrades. So one really cool example of that is Polytone. So they got sick and tired of waiting for ICA to work well and for that to be implemented everywhere, and it's just, they needed accounts. So this is built by the DAO team, by the way. So they needed the same concepts of interchain accounts, but they wanted it to have it now. So they built on top of IBC, they built their own protocol. Not going to go into how it works, but it's just a slightly different version of how we do interchain accounts, where all you need is CosmWasm on both chains, and you can speak Polytone. And you can do this with whatever you want. If you have an idea of a protocol or an IBC application, you don't have to do what you previously had to do, which is the custom module route. And not only would you have to build that module and upgrade it on your own chain if you have one, but you have to convince everyone else to do it too. With Polytone, you don't have to convince anyone to do that. You just, if you're going to deploy it, then you have it. And that's also what Stargaze did for, did I have this example? No. For ICS 721, so NFT transfers. So they built, actually when the NFT transfers were built out, it was built by two different teams. One was the Stargaze team and Arc Protocol guys. They built the ICS 721 protocol in CosmWasm, and another team built it in the IBC implementation. As far as I know, the IBC implementation is not live anywhere, but the CosmWasm one is, because it's so darn easy to deploy it. And yeah, I mean, when we did a game of NFTs, it was really cool because you had all this on Juno. You just spun up the contract there and a contract on Stargaze, and then there you have it. So it expands the possibilities to really innovate, because to innovate you need to iterate quickly and you need to get it into people's hands now. You can't wait 6 months; it's too late. It doesn't work. Yeah, so whatever you want, you can build it like that. Yeah, and the last example is the CV ICA controller, which is just implementing ICA in CosmWasm. So it's, yeah, it's, and it was built for the same reasons, I think. It's just being able to adopt ICA without having to, all the chains to actually to implement it and do the set which messages are allowed. You know, it takes a lot. And it allows any CosmWasm chain to talk to any non-CosmWasm chains that has the ICA thing already implemented. So for instance, now you can, from, I don't know, some CosmWasm chain that doesn't have the ICA thing, you can actually just deploy this and talk to Cosmos Hub now because it has the host thing implemented. So that's what you can do with protocols. So if you have like ideas of what you could do over IBC, that's a new application, maybe I don't know, an email protocol, messaging protocol, whatever, you can do that a lot easier, which is very, very cool. So yeah, that's it. Okay, thanks, bye.